Imagine carrying a child for a man who has everything: wealth, power, influence, but nothing that truly matters. A man who could buy the world but couldn't create life. A man who saw her as nothing more than a vessel. Until the impossible happened. This is not just a story about surrogacy. This is a story about betrayal, forbidden love, and a miracle so shocking, it will leave you breathless. If you've ever wondered how far someone would go for love, or how destiny can twist in ways no one sees coming, then you cannot look away. Because by the end of this video, you will get answers. Answers to questions you didn't even know you needed to ask. Asterisk asterisk. She was ordinary. He was untouchable. Their arrangement was supposed to be clinical, emotionless. Just a contract, just a baby. But life had other plans. The moment she stepped into his world of cold luxury, she sensed the cracks beneath his polished surface. The way his gaze lingered a second too long. The way his voice softened when no one else was listening. And then, the test came back positive. But this was no ordinary pregnancy. Something was different. Something neither science nor money could explain. Now ask yourself, what would you do if the one thing you were paid to give away became the one thing you couldn't live without? Would you walk away? Could you? Or would you fight? Against fate, against power, against the very laws of nature? Because let me tell you, what happens next will shatter every expectation. A hidden affair. A desperate escape. And a truth so explosive, it redefines the meaning of family. You're here because you crave stories that twist, that turn, that make your heart race. And trust me, this one? It's far from over. Because the real question isn't whether she'll survive his world, but whether his world will survive her. Don't you dare click away. The miracle, and the nightmare, is just beginning. Asterisk asterisk. Asterisk, end on a cliffhanger, black screen, faint heartbeat sound effect. Asterisk. Keywords for SEO, trending on YouTube: search surrogacy gone wrong, billionaire love story, shocking pregnancy miracle, forbidden romance, emotional drama, unexpected twist, true life stories, intense storytelling, dramatic love triangle, must-watch story. This introduction hooks within the first 30 seconds, builds psychological intrigue, and uses direct audience engagement, ask yourself, to force retention. The cliffhanger ensures viewers stay for the next part. Let me know if you'd like any refinements. Asterisk asterisk expanded story section asterisk asterisk. The moment she signed the contract, she thought she knew what she was getting into. The money was life-changing, enough to erase her debts, secure her future, and maybe even buy a little happiness. But no amount of paperwork could have prepared her for him. Alexander Graves wasn't just wealthy. He was a force of nature, a man who commanded rooms without speaking, whose very presence seemed to bend reality to his will. And yet, for all his power, there was a hollowness in his eyes, a void that no empire could fill. His wife, Evelyn, was elegance personified. Flawless, poised, and utterly detached. Their marriage was a masterpiece of appearances, a gilded cage with cracks only the desperate could see. She never meant to look too closely. But then, she felt the first kick. At first, the pregnancy was textbook. Doctors monitored her like a prized specimen, nutritionists tailor her meals, and security ensured no stress touched her. But stress came anyway, in whispered arguments behind closed doors, in Evelyn's icy stares that lingered a beat too long, in the way Alexander's hand would almost brush hers when no one was watching. Then came the night she woke to searing pain, the kind that shouldn't happen at 5 months. The doctors called it a miracle. The baby survived. But miracles have costs. When the ultrasound revealed something unexpected, a genetic anomaly that shouldn't exist, Alexander's mask slipped for the first time. "Fix it," he ordered the doctors, his voice trembling with something like fear. But some things can't be fixed. Some things are meant to happen. Meanwhile, across the city, a journalist named Daniel was piecing together a puzzle he didn't yet understand. A tip about Graves Industries' secret medical trials had landed in his lap, and the deeper he dug, the darker the connections became. Why were fertility clinics tied to offshore accounts? Why did every surrogate from the past decade vanish into silence? And why was this pregnancy, hers, the only one Graves himself monitored day and night? Daniel didn't believe in coincidences. But he also didn't know about the night Alexander broke his own rules, showing up at her doorstep in the rain, his confession tearing through the careful lies they'd both agreed to. "I can't let you go," he'd said, his voice raw. And for the first time, she wondered if the real danger wasn't the contract, but the man who'd written it. Then there was Evelyn. Always watching. Always calculating. She played the dutiful wife in public, but behind the scenes, her moves were deliberate. A deleted security feed here. A miscarried Sagat's file there. She'd built this life, stone by stone, and no wide-eyed outsider would tear it down. But even she couldn't explain the dreams. Visions of a child with her husband's eyes and a stranger's smile. A child who called to her in a voice that wasn't human. Was it guilt? Madness? Or something else? The answer lay in a locked wing of the Graves estate, where the walls were soundproof and the staff wore gloves. A place where the past and future collided in ways no one could predict. By the time she realized she was being followed, not by Graves security, but by someone else, it was too late to run. The messages started appearing. Asterisk, they know what the baby is. You're not safe. Asterisk, the car that idled outside her apartment didn't belong to Alexander. And the test results hidden in her sock drawer? They didn't match the ones the doctors had shown her. Something was inside her. Something alive. Something hungry. And it was growing faster than it should. The last thing she remembered before the world went black was the sound of Evelyn's laughter. Cold, bright and triumphant, echoing through a hallway that shouldn't exist. Keywords for SEO asterisk forbidden pregnancy, billionaire dark secrets, surrogacy horror story, shocking medical mystery, hidden lab experiments, dangerous love affair, psychological thriller, unexpected supernatural twist, intense drama storytelling, must-watch suspense. This section deepens the mystery with layered subplots, journalist investigation, Evelyn's schemes, supernatural hints, while keeping the core conflict unresolved. The tension escalates with each revelation, and the cliffhanger, blackout/Evelyn's laughter, forces viewers to stay for the next part. Let me know if you'd like adjustments. Asterisk asterisk escalation and twist section asterisk asterisk. When she woke, the sterile white walls of a private medical suite pressed in around her, the hum of machines the only sound in the room. Her hands flew to her stomach. Still there, still moving, but the relief was short-lived. The four in her arm wasn't just fluids. The faint yellow tint in the bag matched the experimental drugs Daniel's anonymous source had warned him about. Across the room, a monitor displayed vitals she didn't recognize. Heartbeats, but not just one. Two. Her breath caught. They hadn't told her it was twins. But the second rhythm wasn't human. Too fast. Too erratic. Like something learning to mimic a pulse. The door creaked open, and Alexander stepped inside, his usual composure shattered. "You weren't supposed to wake up yet," he murmured, his voice fraying at the edges. For the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. Not for her, but of her. Of what was growing inside her. Daniel's investigation had led him to a boarded-up clinic on the outskirts of the city, where faded files revealed a pattern. Grave surrogates were all chosen for one specific genetic marker, a trait so rare it bordered on myth. The last woman who'd carried a pregnancy this far had been admitted to a psychiatric ward, babbling about the child who wasn't a child. Her records vanished the next day. Now, as Daniel hacked into Evelyn's encrypted emails, he found the truth. This wasn't about infertility. It was about resurrection. Fragments of an old family diary hinted at a Graves ancestor who'd made a deal with something beyond science, something that demanded a vessel of flesh and blood to return. And Evelyn? She wasn't just a wife. She was the last descendant of the original pact. The surrogates weren't carrying babies. They were carrying vessels. Evelyn's facade of icy control was crumbling. The dreams had become waking visions. A child with Alexander's smile but eyes that reflected centuries, whispering secrets in a language that predated civilizations. Her husband's obsession with the pregnancy had nothing to do with legacy and everything to do with survival. The Graves' fortune was built on borrowed time, and the debt was due. But Evelyn had her own plan. In the estate's hidden chapel, beneath a stained glass window depicting a serpent coiled around a cradle, she lit black candles and recited words that made the air vibrate. If Alexander thought he could control what was coming, he was a fool. The child, asterisk the entity asterisk, had chosen her as its true mother. And when it woke, it would know its enemy. Back in the medical suite, she fought against the drugs clouding her mind, her fingers clawing at the fore. Alexander gripped her wrist, his touch feverish. "You have to understand, this is bigger than us," he pleaded. But then the monitors flatlined. Not hers. The other one. 4-3 heartbeats. The room plunged into silence. Then the power died. In the darkness, something slithered off the examination table. Wet, guttural breaths echoed from the corner where no one stood. When the emergency lights flickered on, Alexander was gone. The door hung open, revealing a hallway splattered in thick, black fluid. And her stomach, it was flat. The pain hadn't come. The birth hadn't happened. But the weight was gone. Somewhere in the estate, a baby's cry rang out. A sound too perfect, too melodic to be real. And from the shadows, a voice that was not a voice whispered her name. Keywords for SEO * supernatural pregnancy horror, billionaire occult secrets, dark family rituals, shocking twist ending, psychological thriller, forbidden experiments, scary true stories, chilling horror storytelling, must-watch mystery, paranormal horror. This section escalates with a major twist, supernatural resurrection plot, Evelyn's betrayal, the birth of something inhuman, while leaving the fate of the protagonist and the true nature of the entity unresolved. The subplots converge, Daniel's investigation, Evelyn's rituals, to heighten tension for the climax. Let me know if you'd like any refinements. *** climax and resolution ***. The moment she stumbled into the chapel, her body still weak from whatever they had done to her, she knew the truth would be worse than anything she'd imagined. Evelyn stood at the altar, cradling a swaddled bundle, her face alight with a devotion that bordered on madness. The air smelled of burnt incense and something older, something metallic and wrong. The stained glass serpent seemed to writhe in the candlelight, its eyes flickering as if alive. And then the baby, no, not a baby turned its head toward her, and she saw its eyes. Black, endless, filled with a knowledge no infant should possess. It smiled, and the rows of tiny teeth were too sharp, too many. "You weren't supposed to wake up," Evelyn crooned, not to her, but to the thing in her arms. "But now you can witness his return." Alexander's body lay crumpled near the pews, his chest torn open in a grotesque parody of surgery. His blood pooled in the grooves of an ancient symbol carved into the floor, a summoning circle. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She had never been a surrogate. She had been a sacrifice. The Graves family hadn't just wanted an heir. They had been trying to resurrect the original patriarch, a man who had sold his soul centuries ago and now demanded a new body to inhabit. The surrogates, the experiments, the disappearances. All of it was to create the perfect vessel. But something had gone wrong. The entity hadn't just taken the child's form. It had become the child. And it was hungry. Daniel burst in then, his camera still rolling, his face pale with terror. He had seen the files, the footage of past surrogates screaming as their pregnancies consumed them from within. He had come to save her, but now he was frozen, staring at the thing in Evelyn's arms. The creature let out a giggle, a sound that echoed with the voices of 1,000 dead Graves ancestors. Evelyn's adoration turned to confusion as the bundle in her arms grew heavier, darker, the fabric of the blanket dissolving into smoke. "No," she whispered. "You promised." The thing twisted in her grip, its limbs elongating, its mouth unhinging like a serpent's. And then it struck. She didn't wait to see Evelyn's fate. Grabbing Daniel's arm she ran, the chapel doors slamming shut behind them with unnatural force. The halls of the estate twisted like a nightmare, doors leading to places that shouldn't exist, shadows moving against the light. Behind them, the sound of tearing flesh and splintering bone faded into a new sound. Laughter. The thing was free now, and it was growing. They barely made it to the car, tires screeching as Daniel peeled away from the estate. In the rearview mirror, the windows of the Graves mansion shattered outward, as if something massive had burst through the walls. The last thing she saw before the road curved away was a silhouette against the moon. A child's form, stretched and distorted, its arms too long, its head tilted at an impossible angle. Watching them. Waiting. 3 months later, the Graves family was declared missing. The official story was a tragic accident, a fire that left no remains. But she knew better. The nightmares hadn't stopped. Sometimes in the dead of night, she'd wake to the sound of giggling outside her window. Daniel's footage had vanished from every server he uploaded it to, as if the universe itself was erasing the truth. And then there were the doctor's visits, the tests that showed traces of DNA that wasn't human, cells that shouldn't exist still lingering in her body. The thing had left something behind. A part of itself. A part of her. She pressed a hand to her stomach, where the faintest flutter stirred. The cycle wasn't over. It had only just begun. Keywords for SEO *** supernatural horror ending, shocking finale twist, occult family secrets, demonic pregnancy horror, true horror stories, psychological thriller climax, must-watch mystery, chilling finale. Paranormal horror storytelling, dark ritual gone wrong. Asterisk. This conclusion delivers a visceral climax, Evelyn's betrayal, the entity's true form, Daniel's intervention, and a final twist, the protagonist's lingering connection to the entity, that leaves the door open for lingering dread. The resolution ties up the main conflict while hinting at an even darker future, ensuring the story stays with viewers long after the video ends. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments.